Absolutely. Kate Hardcastle there, a consumer expert. Thank you for your company today. You're up to date on all things news, business and sport. I'll be back later for World Business Report.
This is BBC World News. I'm Tanya Beckett. Our top stories. The new British Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, aims to bring factions together as his cabinet prepares for its first meeting today. Ukraine urges its citizens abroad not to return until the spring to ease pressure on damaged energy systems. Mourners march in Nablus during the funerals of 5 Palestinians killed in an Israeli raid. Sportswear company Adidas cuts ties with the rapper formerly known as Kanye West, calling his anti-Semitic postings on social media hateful and dangerous. Hello, welcome to BBC World News. The Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, will host his first cabinet meeting later after Tuesday's dramatic reshuffle. On taking office, Mr Sunak vowed to fix what he called the mistakes of Liz Truss's leadership before resurrecting the ministerial careers of Suella Braverman and Dominic Raab and Michael Gove. He'll also face a stern test in Parliament later as he takes on the opposition party leader Sir Keir Starmer in the Prime Minister's questions. Our political correspondent Jonathan Blake reports. Stay with us here on BBC World News. Still to come. Pugilist to pop star, why Tyson Fury is hoping to be a knockout in the charts. This is BBC World News. Here are the latest headlines. Britain's new Prime Minister Rishi Sunak aims to bring factions together as his cabinet prepares to meet for the first time today. Ukraine urges its citizens abroad not to return until the spring to ease pressure on damaged energy systems. Prime Minister of the UK, Rishi Sunak, has spoken on the phone to President Biden, who's described his appointment as a groundbreaking milestone. Mr Sunak comes to office facing a series of major challenges on the global stage, from the war in Ukraine to the global energy crisis. Our diplomatic correspondent James Landale explains what's ahead. Don't forget, you can get in touch with me on Twitter. I'm at BBC Tanya Beckett. This is BBC World News. This is BBC World News. Here are the headlines. Britain's new Prime Minister aims to unify the factions in his party with his cabinet appointments. Rishi Sunak will hold a cabinet meeting this morning and then take part in Prime Minister's questions for the first time. Ukraine has urged its citizens abroad not to return until the spring to ease pressure on damaged energy systems. Russian attacks on power plants and other infrastructure have reportedly destroyed a third of the country's energy sector. Thousands of mourners have marched through the streets of Nablus in the West Bank during funerals held for 5 Palestinians killed in an Israeli raid. Israel says it acted after the killing of a soldier earlier this month. And more brands cut ties with the musician Ye, formerly known as Kanye West, after he posted anti-Semitic comments on his Twitter account. Clothing giant Adidas ended their partnership, and retailer Gap will be removing his Yeezy Gap products from its stores. New Italian Prime Minister The new Italian Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, has addressed Parliament for the first time before obtaining a vote of confidence. Her government is credited as being the most right-wing in the country's Republican history. She pledged to continue Italy's support for Ukraine and distance herself from any fascist ideology. Stefano Fasani now reports. The United Nations has warned that urgent action is needed in East Africa to protect the growing number of people displaced by drought and conflict. The head of the UN Refugee Agency, Filippo Grandi, has spent 4 days in Kenya and Somalia, where nearly 1.5 million people have been forced to leave their homes this year. He's called on presidents of both countries to work together to help those displaced. And now it's time for all the sports news.
Hello, I'm Mark Edwards with your sport. We start with football on a night when 5 more teams qualified for the knockout stage of the European Champions League. There's still 1 match day to go, but those heading through to the last 16 include the holders Real Madrid. And that's all your sport for now. From me, Mark Edwards, and the rest of the team, bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Tyson Fury is one of the biggest names in boxing. He's a 2-time world heavyweight champion and a fan favourite. He's also a bit of a crooner, believe it or not. Famously, after big fights, he'll serenade the crowd. Now he's releasing his first single, hoping to raise awareness surrounding mental health. The BBC's Tim Allman reports. Well, he's certainly better than I am, that's for sure. Don't forget, you can get in touch with me on Twitter. I'm at BBC Tanya Beckett. This is BBC World News.
Now on BBC World News, the latest business news from across the globe. World Business Report.
Markets cheer the appointment of Rishi Sunak, but now the hard work begins. We assess his new team and what it means for the UK economy. And old is the new, how the big fashion retailers are jumping on the pre-owned bandwagon. Hello and a very warm welcome. You're with World Business Report with me, Sally Bundock. And we start right here in the UK, where the new Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, has moved into number 10, and he spent most of his first day appointing senior members of the government. On arrival in 10 Downing Street, he said the UK was facing a profound economic crisis and made a point of saying that he'd repair the damage caused by some of the policies of his predecessor, Liz Truss. OK, thank you, Janet. Good to talk to you again. Janet Moyi there from RBC Bruin Dolphin. Now let's look at Wall Street, where the signs are a slowing global economy starting to eat into the bottom lines of big tech. Shares of Alphabet, the parent company of Google, dropped over 5% in after-hours trade after it said it had made so much money in the last quarter. It proved to be weaker than expected numbers. And the person looking at all of those for us is Michelle Fleury. Michelle Fleury there. Let's bring some other business stories. Adidas says it's ending its partnership with the US rapper and fashion designer Ye, formerly known as Kanye West, over his anti-Semitic remarks. The German sportswear giant says the severance would take place with immediate effect. It's not the only brand to do so. The Gap ended its partnership with Ye last month and is now pulling all remaining Yeezy Gap products from its stores and online. The takeover saga between Elon Musk and Twitter has taken a new turn. According to Bloomberg, the world's richest man has pledged to close the acquisition of Twitter by Friday. Mr. Musk made that comment in a video conference call with bankers helping fund the deal. The BBC reached out to Twitter for comment on the reports. The social media firm said that there would be no comment at this time. Yeah, they're not tweeting about it at the moment. Let's look at financial markets. So we've mentioned that some of the losers on Wall Street were the big tech stocks, certainly after the trading day finished. You can see, though, Japan and Hong Kong seeing a better day. Certainly for Hong Kong, earlier this week we saw heavy losses for the Hang Seng Index. You can see as well the dollar in terms of how much yen it is buying, which is a real problem for the Japanese central bank. Other business stories on our website. Do take a look, but from me for now, it's goodbye.
This is BBC World News. I'm Tanya Beckett. Our top stories. The new British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak aims to bring factions together as his cabinet prepares for its first meeting today. Ukraine urges its citizens abroad not to return until the spring to ease pressure on damaged energy systems. Mourners march in Nablus during the funerals of 5 Palestinians killed in an Israeli raid. And a new warning that climate change is having a severe impact on the health of people across the world. Hello and welcome to BBC World News. Britain's new Prime Minister Rishi Sunak will host his first cabinet meeting later after Tuesday's dramatic reshuffle. On taking office, Mr Sunak vowed to fix what he called the mistakes of Liz Truss's leadership before resurrecting the ministerial careers of Suella Braverman, Dominic Raab and Michael Gove. He'll also face a stern test in Parliament later as he takes on the opposition party leader Sir Keir Starmer in Prime Minister's Questions, as our political correspondent Jonathan Blake now reports. Catherine Byrne, thank you very much indeed. Stay with us here on BBC World News. Still to come. More brands cut ties with the musician Ye, formerly known as Kanye West, over his anti-Semitic posts on social media. This is BBC World News. Here are the latest headlines. Britain's new Prime Minister Rishi Sunak aims to bring factions together as his cabinet prepares to meet for the first time today. 5 people, including at least 3 Palestinian gunmen, have been killed in an Israeli raid against a militant group in the occupied West Bank. It follows the killing of an Israeli soldier earlier this month. From Nablus, our Middle East correspondent Tom Bateman reports on the latest violence. Don't forget you can get in touch with me on Twitter. I'm at BBC Tanya Beckett. This is BBC World News. This is BBC News. I'm Tanya Beckett. Our top stories. The new British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak aims to bring factions together as his cabinet prepares for its first meeting today. Ukraine urges its citizens abroad not to return until the spring to ease pressure on damaged energy systems. And a new warning that climate change is having a severe impact on the health of people across the world. More top brands cut ties with the rapper formerly known as Kanye West over his anti-Semitic postings on social media. For all of you watching on PBS and around the globe, a very warm welcome. This is BBC News. Britain's new Prime Minister Rishi Sunak will host his first cabinet meeting later after Tuesday's dramatic reshuffle. On taking office, Mr Sunak vowed to fix what he called the mistakes of Liz Truss's leadership before resurrecting the ministerial careers of Suella Braverman, Dominic Raab and Michael Gove. He'll also face a stern test in Parliament later as he takes on the opposition party leader Sir Keir Starmer in Prime Minister's Questions, as our political correspondent Jonathan Blake now reports. Don't forget you can get in touch with me on Twitter. I'm at BBC Tanya Beckett. This is BBC World News.
Hello. High pressure keeping a large part of Europe dry over the next few days.